up, you stay on hard.
Hey, good evening. Welcome to another episode of the BCSN SportsWrap. I'm Bryan Fulford, and joining me at the start of the show, none other than Kelvin Carter, fresh off the road. Kelvin, how you doing tonight?
Doing well, Bryan. Just got back in from the Chicago Classic. Shout out to AD Drew and the Morehouse family for doing a great job. You know, we got in there and had a great time in Chicago. Thrilling game. You know, just really intriguing seeing these classics from a different lens here in these large NFL stadiums. But all in all, it was a great experience, man. The Morehouse people were awesome. The people in Chicago were awesome. Voter registration drives being held by all the different schools and fraternities and sororities there on the concourse. So all in all, great weekend. Rode the train from St. Louis. Great ride up and great ride back.
That's gotta be something, man, where we actually have trains, you know, down here in Florida. Well, we got a couple of trains, but it's an interesting mode of transportation, you know, definitely something different.
Yeah, I mean, I think prior to us being adults, you know, as adults, we got into planes, but I remember vividly in my high school, you know, this is a little off subject, but in terms of transportation, the trip at your senior year was a trip to Washington, D.C. from Meridian, Mississippi on the Amtrak. So here in St. Louis, it's kind of, you know, we're 4 hours out from Milwaukee, Indianapolis, Memphis, and Chicago. So they're like 4.5-hour rides. Instead of you driving your car and worrying about parking, you just get on the train and get off and Uber to where you're going.
Yeah. Well, good stuff. You know, definitely wherever you can, I encourage everybody, if you can find some different mode of transportation other than having to drive yourself or fly yourself, strongly encourage you to do so. Well, what a weekend it was, man. What a weekend. Yes. What a weekend it was. What a weekend. That's the taste of I told you. No cognac, promise, no cognac, but that's just a little sipping. That's just a little sipping tea. You know, boy, I'm not gonna be that guy on this episode. You know, I kind of thought about it, Kelvin. I said, man, I could really be that guy tonight. But I said, no, I'm not gonna be that guy. I'm gonna try to talk about it and give it its proper due. But man, what a weekend of upsets. Well, I don't know. Maybe it was an upset. There might be some fans upset. Definitely some fans are upset. But, you know, I think also we're seeing the uncertainty of this year, Kelvin, is showing itself. I mean, we have some big headlines happening, and I would venture to say there is more shocking news happening from our D2 or non-D1 HBCUs than actually what we're seeing from the FCS HBCUs. So we'll get into talking about that. I want to jump right into it because I know I only got you for this opening segment. At the bottom of the hour, Coach Farasi is going to step in, and we're going to go through some of the games that he had a chance to watch. And then in hour two, Jamie Walker is going to join the show. And we do have officially the BCSN Top 5 rankings, the first official computer-based rankings, proprietary rankings of the Black College Sports Network. You know, Kelvin, I don't know if you know this, but we don't do preseason rankings at the BCSN. We like to try to let the season play out before we start calling somebody number one and so on and so forth. And it kind of, there's enough people doing that with polls and stuff like that. So
do you think you think based upon the fact that we play multiple money games coming out, do you think that that's still a fair way to do it at week 2, or you thinking we're right at week 3 with it?
Well, we actually wait till after week 4. So
okay.
we obviously there's some schools, a couple schools who did some week 0 games. So if you want to really be honest, you know, some schools are into their 5th week of the season, some are in their 4th. Obviously, at the non-D1 level, some are primarily into their 3rd week, as they call it, and a few that are into their 4th. So it's all over the place, and that's why we like to wait until after the first 4 weeks of the FCS schedule. Really, we call it the FBS NCAA. We before the D2s started changing up the schedule and try to do something different other than the D1s. This was just week 4. So after week 4 is when we started it. Now, what'll be interesting to see is there'll be a few teams that always appear in the opening poll that you're like, what? How are they in the top 5? Might even be a team ranked number 1 that you're like, huh? How are they number 1? Well, what we always tell people is that it levels out, because once the conference season starts, you know, how you perform in your conference, how you perform at home, on the road. We don't give extra weight to blowouts. I think our blowouts are kind of capped at about 17 points. So, you know, once you beat somebody it's like the old AAU rules. You know, once you beat somebody by 15 plus points, there's no difference between beating somebody by 15, 20, or 40. It's a 15-point win. So that way we don't give extra credit for teams like North Carolina Central, excuse me, that like to put up 40-point beatdowns on people. You know, we don't do any, you know, no extra credit for that. So yeah, I had to say that. But let's get the show going. I will say hello to everybody that's jumped in early in the chat room. Just kind of some roll call names I see. Coach Farasi in there. Jimmy Mack, thank you for being a JBN subscriber. I see Mary 305 jumping in there as well. I see Alice, see Ken checking in. Let me see. Jeff Roberts, Aggie Pride, indeed. Indeed, Jeff. Good to see you checking in, regardless of what happened, you checking in. Yes, indeed. How about those Rams, boy? I'm a believer. We're gonna talk about them as that game, one of our top 5 games that we predicted, and it actually did live up to the hype. It did. Drew coming in. I don't know. Drew may I don't know. He can't really pop in. He might pop in, but you know, never know. Lyndon Bloke. Somebody called an ambulance for North Carolina A&T. Well, I tell you what, they found Walker Harris. I'll tell you that. If nothing else, Walker Harris was found. He was found. Yeah. EA, some disappointed Rattlers after the last couple of weeks, but guess what? Conference play is starting for the Rattlers. Hello to you, Carl Major. Walter Harley, hello to you as well. Is it though? Is it though, A&T Roy? Is it? I'm just asking. Just asking. No shade. Just asking. But thank you for coming in. Okay, Kelvin, let's start with that game that you were at, the Chicago Classic. It actually sits right on the edge of one of our top 5. There were so many good games, but I think there's some interesting points to talk about as we talk about this Morehouse Kentucky State game in Chicago. Morehouse gets a 31-28 victory over Kentucky State. And first off, I got to say, props to Kentucky State for scoring points, staying in a game, having a lead, because, you know, the last 3 games were pretty bad. I mean, they were, I don't even want to talk about the stats in which they were getting beat up in. But this was a game, Kelvin, as I just kind of go through my notes, played at Soldier Field. I saw that the attendance was about 15,000. Did it look like there was about 15,000?
Yeah, it looked about 15,000. I think Drew and I were down on the field and we talked about it. I think one of the things that they could do with these classics and these large scale venues, they could really probably just sell lower bowl tickets with a GA admission that would, and based upon the way that the people were situated out, if they just allowed everyone to just come down to the lower bowl, it would make for much better optics. People were spread out. There were people sitting in places where I know they only sat there because their ticket said that's where we're supposed to sit. But then when you look in the lower bowl, there are all these great seats for watching football. And, you know, in an NFL schedule, the sight lines on that lower bowl are incredible. You know, all the way up to the first row of suites. It's just a great look out there. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've never been to Soldier Field before, so it was really good. But kudos to Morehouse, man. A lot of resilience in that game. Drew gave me the lookout for a couple players to look for. The quarterback was, well, although he had 3 turnovers, he did have 3 touchdowns and closed the game out at the end with a major play to win it. But it was just a really good game.
Yeah, so I'll break that game down here briefly. Unfortunately, for anyone who wanted to watch it, you couldn't watch it. Somehow, some way, the game wasn't streamed, wasn't broadcast in the local market, at least that I'm aware of. Drew chimes in and said the actual attendance was 25K. So that's good because I thought I saw somewhere on one of the stat sheets it said 15. So good to see that it was 25. That was good. And hey, that's consecutive classics for Morehouse. Obviously just 1 week off of being in New York and then going to Chicago. But anyway, here's how this game broke down. Kentucky State is up 28-18. I wrote, what did I write these notes? After a 49-yard touchdown run, I believe with 3:55 to play. I think that I wrote my notes wrong, but anyway, Kentucky State is up by 10 after a 49-yard run. On the ensuing kickoff, Morehouse gets a 47-yard kick return that brings the ball out to about midfield, their own 48-yard line. It only takes them 5 plays and 52 yards and 1:50 to score, cutting the deficit to 28-25. The Morehouse defense then holds. Fortunately, Morehouse held on to their timeouts, and they got a 3 and out. They used a timeout after every play. So actually only 27 seconds of clock ran off. And so by the time Kentucky State punted, they punted to the Morehouse 19. So Morehouse gets the ball 1st and 10 on their 20 after 3 consecutive completions. And you mentioned the quarterback from Morehouse, Miles Scott, who had a big day.
Yes.
21 of 38, 369, 3 touchdowns, 3 INTs, ran for 53 net yards, and had a rushing touchdown. Definitely might have to go into our 6-pack of top performers from the weekend. So after 3 completions, Morehouse got the ball all the way out to their own 48-yard line. On a 2nd and 10, Kentucky State commits a 15-yard personal foul that moved the ball into the Kentucky State territory. So Morehouse now has the ball at the 37-yard line. Scott, doing what he does, picked up a 1st down on a 3rd and 10, 13-yard run to the Kentucky State 24. 2 plays later, he connects with his wide receiver for a touchdown, leaving 10 seconds on the clock. A great closing drive by Morehouse. So, I mean, you were there to see it all. Morehouse ends up winning 31-28. What's your thoughts there? Did Kentucky State, and I heard Drew kind of mention a little bit that there was some clock management that Kentucky State probably should have done a little better in the close. What's your take there?
They definitely could have probably closed Morehouse out. The one thing I can say is, as I watched the game, I think their ability to actually hold on to those timeouts was kind of predicated upon the fast play and some things that inadvertently happened, you know, out there, like with a turnover or with a 1st down or anything that may have happened. So, and kudos to the new head coach, you know, keeping those timeouts. And one thing that I saw up close was I saw a group from Morehouse that never got dejected. They never felt like, they were out of it. And it really looked like the game was over because literally I'm sitting there looking at it. They gave up a big punt return or something happened. They gave up a long run. Guy just burst through the middle, no linebacker in sight. Safeties were out, and they were up. And then I was thinking to myself, I was like, oh, well, let's just, shoot some photos and it'll be over. And then the next thing I know, Morehouse has the ball, and I'm sitting there actually caught it on film just to the tight end. Great play. But this quarterback, I really like him, and I really like their wide receiver. So they should, in my opinion, fare well in their conference unless there's something in their conference that's really much stronger than what we saw, because Kentucky State was a solid ball club.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I hear a lot of people say that, and I know Kentucky State they've given up a lot of points over the last few weeks, but there still seems to be people still hold them in higher regard than maybe what their record shows. So, look, it's still some games left to play. Maybe Kentucky State will be a pest or bother for somebody that's looking to make a run in the SIAC. The wide receiver from Morehouse that you talk about, Johnny Williams, he had 5 catches, 144 yards, and a touchdown.
Yes.
And when I went to go look at the Division II NCAA stats, and let me see if I can pull it up because I was put onto this. I think he is one of the lead. Let me see. Among receiving yards in NCAA Division II, he is actually 6th with 424. He actually sits four spots behind Brevin Caldwell of Johnson C. Smith, who sits at number 2 in the nation with 522 receiving yards, 36 receptions. Actually leads Division II for Brevin Caldwell. And he had another big day for Johnson C. Smith. We'll talk about him and the Golden Bulls coming up here a little bit later. But in the SIAC, though, Kelvin, where I was going to go with that is just in the top, I'll say amongst the top 11. Well, if I just kept it to the top 10, you got 3 SIAC wide receivers. Caldwell, Johnny Williams, and then Armand Harris of Clark. And sitting right at 11 is Jamal Jones of Clark. So, it's pretty good talent in the SIAC in terms of receivers.
So I got a question for you, Bryan, just in terms of, and I'm looking at the SIAC standings. So they don't have a divisional split like the SWAC per se. It's all in one. So it's Clark, Albany State, Miles, Fort Valley, Lane, Benedict, Allen, Morehouse, Edward Waters. All those teams are in together. So how is their championship determined? Just best record?
Top 2 teams advance.
Okay.
Top 2 teams advance. And so if I were to just look at the standings as they stand according to the SIAC website, obviously only half the league has played 2 conference games. So Clark is 2-0 in conference play. And then there's only 2 other unbeatens, and that's Albany State and Miles. Both are 1-0.
Right.
So,
and then everybody else is 1-1 all the way down to Lane. Yeah. And Tuskegee's 0-2, and Kentucky State's 0-2.
Well, according to this, it says Tuskegee is 0-1 in conference. And I think that's because that first game in the Red Tails Classic may not have counted towards their conference schedule.
Okay.
I'm sorry. If they played Johnson C. Smith, well, that wouldn't have mattered anyway because Johnson C.'s not in the SIAC. So, yeah, they've only played 1 conference game. Tuskegee only played 1 conference game, and that was, a shocking loss at home to Savannah State, 20-16 yesterday. So, yeah, but I mean, still a lot of football left to play. So we'll kind of see how it shakes out. Now, I hate to do this to you, but since I got you here,
I already know where you're going with this.
I got to go to some of these SWAC scores from yesterday, and you and I are both affected by this, so I won't shy away from it. But the Braves on the road taking on McNeese State, 42-14 loss. And I say this with a similar tone because, as you saw, FAMU lost the game to an FBS Troy. These non-conference games against PWIs, I think there's a stat that only one team among 8 games, I think there was 8 or 9 games HBCUs playing PWIs, only one team got a victory, and that happens to be Norfolk State. There's the other side of it. So Norfolk State with a 32-10 win over VMI, the only HBCU win against, I believe, 8 or 9 PWIs. So coming back to you there, what's your take on Alcorn? And I think Coach Green had kind of pointed out here the Braves seem to have a quarterback situation. Is that how you would describe what you see with Alcorn State right now?
Yeah, so I watched them. And like I was influential with coming to Alcorn. I watched them enough. I saw Vaughn, I saw Macon when they made the choice to go with Vaughn. It looked natural because I think Vaughn had a complete grasp of the system that our new OC that came in from Lincoln, Missouri, Lincoln Jeff City, had brought in. So it looks like when you're watching it that he has a better or stronger grasp of it. And right now, I'm just trying to figure out what our identity is. This is something a little new for us because we've had the same personnel in place for probably the last 5 years in some capacity, whether it be Coach Mack or whether it be Jason Phillips, who's now at Norfolk. So if you look at those components, it's a new year. And also note, against McNeese State, I think our record was even with them until this time. It's just that the stagnant part of the offense is kind of really was creating some angst around with the Braves, like the stagnant offense. And we got 14 against a PWI, although same level. And in my opinion, if you're going to play a PWI, I think they should be on your same level. It's not that you run off and go play North Dakota State or South Dakota State, but which also too, we probably need to give a lot of kudos to Tennessee State for being able to compete in the OVC because they compete year in, year out as the only HBCU in that conference at that same level.
They don't win. They've never, at least in the last decade, they haven't competed for a first. They haven't won the title, and they rarely are in the hunt. If my and I don't know, somebody may be a TSU person that's listening. I could be wrong, but as I've been paying attention over the last 10 years, they haven't really been in the hunt. Going into the final weekend of the season,
right? And they've been picked 4th. So they are picked 4th, and I think
middle of the road, right? They're always preseason pick, kind of middle of the road, not the worst, not the best, kind of like always in the middle picked.
Yeah. So it's, and I think this, and Bryan, this probably leads into a deeper conversation around how we think about our institutions. And we talked about this, I think, at length. Dr. Kelvin and I talked about. I was thoroughly impressed with the New York Classic, where Morehouse played Howard, and thoroughly impressed with those in the in Chicago. So it leads one to kind of think about maybe our ADs get together and collectively start thinking about, how are we going to look moving forward with this competition thing? Do we need to look at games out of conference early to work on our branding, to work on our, because people want to see, we want to see good football, but what we don't want to see is one of our groups get pounded into the ground, and that's my opinion. Should Alcorn play Edward Waters? I think that was fine. Should Alcorn go across country and play Delaware State? I'm just thinking, based upon seeing almost 60,000 plus fans come out and watch Morehouse over the last 2 weekends, the Classic might not be as dead as one might have thought. And I don't know the Southern Heritage numbers. I didn't see those, what their numbers were, but they definitely, or the OVC, which we knew what the numbers were for that, but weather dictated it. But I think we're at a impasse or a junction point to where we should really start looking at how these preseason games line up for our betterment. Is it better to just go out and get our brains pounded out by Vanderbilt and the University of Arkansas, or could we make that? Could we recoup 75% of that revenue by having a game mano a mano with the maybe outside of your conference or with another HBCU?
Well, I mean, that's a great point. I last night when we did a post-game show after the FAMU Troy game, we briefly touched on that thought of why we schedule the way we schedule, and it's one of those things that fan bases have to buy into and accept. And I don't think anybody wants to accept it because there's this trade-off between, hey, look, everybody in the SWAC and primarily in the SWAC, and maybe I'd say 75% of the MEAC, you're all playing towards the Celebration Bowl, right? You're trying to win a championship, play Celebration Bowl. Now, the extra benefit for the MEAC schools is you kind of can do the best of both worlds. If you can schedule nicely and beat teams in your non-conference because you have more non-conference and conference games, you can sort of give yourself a backup plan should you end up in second place in the conference. Maybe you have a bad day and end up with a loss in conference, or maybe 2 losses in conference. And, you might still somehow find your way into a bid into the FCS playoffs. But that's not likely to happen for a SWAC school. I know it did happen for Florida A&M a couple years ago, but even that was very rare, very unique, right? So, I look at Alcorn's schedule. You guys have played 4 games. You went to UAB, lost by 38. Went to Vanderbilt, lost by 55. You returned home. Now, I don't know what the attendance was like, but your home opener against Edward Waters, did it sell out? Was it 75% sold out? What would you guesstimate?
It didn't sell out, but it was high school day. I talked with my mom about it. She said it's a solid crowd. But here's my thing. I don't think you were on this conversation, but if we just look at it, we keep asking for money. We keep begging for money. And I was talking with a buddy out of Chicago about it. Alcorn Stadium is only about 4,000 seats fewer than Vanderbilt. And actually, Vandy has a very small SEC stadium. North Carolina A&T seats 30,000. And I went to the A&T University of Delaware game. And the operations manager told me they can't wait to get back towards an HBCU conference because every time they play at HBCU, the crowd is incredible. The environment is incredible. And I just did some simple math. If Alcorn just sold out all of their home games at $30 a ticket, even if the people don't come, just buy the ticket, you were looking at about $600,000 worth of revenue just on ticket sales.
From one game.
From one game. So if you do that times 4, that covers all of that. Like that one game is about what you got to play Vandy and UAB. Really?
Okay.
Yeah, those one ball game at home, fully sold out, $22,500 at $30 a ticket would do it. And that's the reason why I call it the small gifts campaign. I hear all the complaints about the money games. Maybe, and kudos to Jason Capel over at Alabama State. I think if they play 10 games, I think 9 of them are in state. They play Miles. They play Tuskegee. I don't know if they play Talladega.
They played Samford, which
is
FCS in Alabama.
Yes, they play Samford. So guess what? They temper their costs by anywhere they go. Like they play at Alcorn State University this year in the Port City Classic in Mobile. Anywhere they go is a bus ride away. You don't have to worry about flights and planes. I think that they were strategic about that.
Fan base can get there.
Fan base can get there. And so like with Alcorn, we have surrounding us, you got Mississippi College, you got Delta State, you got all these schools that are close and within range that you could create a Mississippi schedule, and your fan base that is in Mississippi could come to those games. But on the flip side, I have this argument with another group, a challenge with another group. We don't, for whatever reason, if we play a PWI, we don't feel a need to go and show up for that game. It's the strangest thing.
Right.
It's strange. So that's my take on that part. But I just think that, again, we're not going to get into the playoffs. We hadn't won a game in I don't know how long. I'm not saying take the playoffs out of your mind, but I'm saying build yourself up to a level of which, like FAMU did in the year when they didn't win and Jackson State with the Celebration Bowl. If we just build your program up into the best that it can be, and even if it's not playoff worthy, then it'll be Celebration Bowl worthy. It's a win-win if you just do your best. But I think that we do need to re-look at this scheduling piece around going out here and getting, accosted by these people. I
love how you said that.
Yeah. Hey, bro, the numbers look so crazy when you look at them.
The numbers are. Yeah, I think that's something that we're gonna have to look. I mean, now that we've gotten next week we're going into conference schedule. I mean, for example, you guys, Alcorn, you're probably excited because the next 2 weeks you're at Valley, breaking in the new stadium, new turf, and all that stuff, and then you play UAPB. So, what is that 1-3 nasty taste in your mouth that a lot of fans have in Brave Nation? You can quickly get rid of that with 2 good wins. Now, if you stumble, then I back off the ledge because it's gonna be arrows being shot at me.
Yeah, but the one good part about it is Southern's 1-0 in conference. Texas Southern is 1-0. Everybody else is 0-4. So we are 0-0. UAPB is 0-0. Alcorn 0-0. Prairie View's lost 2. So we can just manage to win the next 2 games. We'll get into an overall tie for number 1 in our division in the West. So people will be back happy, and the record will be 3-3. So that looks better than 1-3. So so it's a lot that can be said about that. We can do some early cleanup.
Well, you guys definitely need the next 2 weeks to get right because after that, it don't look pretty. And actually, the West, I'm not gonna lie, the West actually, I'm saying something really bold. The West looks better than what we might have thought. Can I say that? I feel like I can say I would take right now the top 4 teams in the West over the top 4 teams in the East. I might be off base there for some people's take.
Well,
I mean, look at the top 4 teams. I mean, what we've seen from a competitive nature. I'm just talking. Look at the performance on the field. Grambling, Texas Southern, Southern, and I guess I don't know. We got to put either y'all or Prairie View, and I don't know.
It's shameful. It's shameful. We were picked number 1, and here we sitting talking about what's going on. So I'll be at Valley and home. So I'll spend about 2 weeks in Mississippi covering the Braves. Should be. I hope, and I just pray that we've just been looking at a vanilla situation, and we'll see our real team, real offense, real all these things come out and do what we're supposed to do. That's my desire. So at Valley, I'm expecting to see who we are as a SWAC team, as opposed to allegedly hiding and running vanilla stuff against McNeese State, Vandy, and UAB.
All right. Xavier Vaughn, 16 of 41, 204 passing, a touchdown, and an INT. Also ran 16 times for 127 yards, 1 touchdown. Are you buying him as your QB1, huh? You ready for conference play with him as QB1?
I will, if at Valley, I'll see up close. I gave him the edge over Mako based on what I've seen, especially keeping up with the football, trying not to turn it over. He stands about 6'4.5", 6'5". He great throwing motion, can really spin the ball. I just want to see what happens, but and we've always been in that 2 quarterback thing, and every time one of the guys, somebody makes them, like even with Felix, we're just not used to this level of uncertainty with our signal call because it's been a while. You know, even Aaron Allen, finally, when we settled in to being who we were and knowing what he was or is, I believe that he put up massive numbers last year, but we were playing towards what, you know, exactly what his strengths were. So with these guys, I just don't know what we're doing. I'm trying to figure it out. So hopefully I'll see it right there on the new turf in Itabena, Mississippi. I just think it'll be a fabulous thing to see.
Hopefully there's a good crowd on hand. I think it'll be interesting, y'all. This is just watch out, Braves, y'all.
Well, you know, this is Bryan, it should be. This is the other part too about our marketing. Yeah. This is a monumental actually year because this is the anniversary year.
Yes.
Of the Valley Alcorn game that took place on the Sunday. So, but I haven't heard that spin around it at all. Like I would think Valley with the new turf, Rice Totten Stadium.
Wait a minute. Quick. I mean, I know you got to go out, so I know we're running up against it for you. But give us the elevator version of the Sun. I mean, you mentioned the Sunday game, Valley and Alcorn, and I'm assuming you're talking 30 years ago, correct?
Yes, 30 years ago. It was a snafu or whatever happened. Mississippi State, Ole Miss. We all used to play at Mississippi Veterans Stadium. It's the municipal stadium. The Egg Bowl was held there. Our game got pushed to that Sunday, and it was a massive outpouring. Probably one of the largest attended HBCU games. Butts right up against some of the Steve McNair games. And I thought for sure there was talks that they were going to move this game to Jackson in commemoration of it. But I just want to believe that somebody's going to put that spin on it this week. They got new turf. You know what I'm saying? It's a big-time chance for them to show off. And it's the 30-year anniversary of one of the greatest HBCU games in the state of Mississippi. So that's what I'm just hoping that somebody comes and kicks in and spins.
Featuring, of course, Aaron McNair, because this is the 30th anniversary of the 94 season. His senior season, correct?
No. This is 80. This is what Jerry Rice and Totten played.
You're going even. That's 40 years. You're going 40 years than that. You're going. Yeah. I thought you said 30 because 30 was 40. Aaron McNair.
Yeah, 40 years.
Oh, 40. Okay, so see,
it was one of the great. This is what made the game so interesting. It was on a Sunday, and I remember vividly leaving Sunday school going to the game, and it was a college game on Pro Day, which is Pro Day is Sunday, right. And there was no
pro games in Mississippi though. So
there's no pro game. I'm just saying that was the NFL designated day is Sunday, and you had all these people there in the stands. So that's about it.
I gotta look that up. I'm gonna see if I can find the stats on that game. 1984, huh?
Yes.
Mississippi Valley State versus Alcorn. All right, we'll look for that. Kelvin, you've been great. Appreciate your time tonight. Again, nice job with your coverage there at the Morehouse game. Morehouse getting their first win over someone not named Clark in about 3 seasons. So, and yes, like Drew said, who would have thought going into the year that after 3 to 4 weeks of the season, Morehouse has more wins than Tuskegee. Wow.
And Bryan, I just sent you over the article on that. You can throw it up in the chat. So great seeing you. Also, kudos, thanks to AD. You guys really took care of me nice up in Morehouse in Chicago. Great shooting those guys. Great to see Coach Mathis get his first win. It was just an overall good feeling. Morehouse people are the best. Howard are the best. HBCU land is the best altogether. You know, no matter whether it's FAMU, Alcorn, Jackson State, North Carolina A&T, I just think we're doing ourselves. We need to really do a better job promoting our institutions and how great we are.
All right. As we take you out of here, I think we got a video from your coverage that we're gonna play. So I think hopefully it's all queued up and ready to go. If it is, we will take a break. Kelvin, be well. And on the other side, we'll have Coach Farasi on the other side right here on the BCSN SportsWrap.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get the most for your money so you can be any traveler you want to be.
You could be a free hot breakfast hero at a comfort hotel.
Yes!
That's how you waffle.
Mr. This script got a plot twist at a Radisson hotel.
A business big leaguer.
Go for key.
Even the ultimate pool float inflator.
With 22 brands and the best value for your money, Choice Hotels has a stay for any you. Book direct at choicehotels.com, where travels come true. Gotta get the corners.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield. Never not working.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Bryan Fulford, joined now by Coach Farasi Norman. Coach, how you doing?
BF, what's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing well. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to the last segment there with Kelvin Carter, but I found an article regarding the 1984 matchup between Mississippi Valley State and Alcorn State. Good old Stephen Gaither back in 2019 wrote an article for HBCU Game Day, which is headlined Mississippi Valley, Alcorn State, and the Game of the Century. So I'm just kind of browsing through. Of course, this was Jerry Rice and Willie Totten's senior year. And just some of the numbers that they were putting up. And just kind of reading a snippet here from the article. The game was originally scheduled to take place at Mississippi Valley's 10,000-seat on-campus stadium on November 3rd. Demand for the game caused it to be moved to Mississippi Veterans Memorial Coliseum, the largest venue in the state. The contest would be held in the 62,000-seat stadium on Sunday instead of Saturday, where more than 130 press credentials had been requested prior to the game, according to Valley Sports Information Director in this article. Of course, Alcorn State at the time, coached by Marino Cassim, aka the Godfather. Let me make sure. You know, this was well before my introduction to actually I gotta say the 84 year was the first year of the Circle City Classic in Indianapolis, where Valley came to Indy, and I believe they played Grambling that year.
Hey, Bryan, in 1984, I was 12 years old.
Okay.
And the only school I knew about at the black college level at that time was Grambling because of Doug Williams was with Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I see a couple people who kind of remember this game. Emmett Jones said W.C. Gordon broadcasted the game. Okay.
That's the guy that
yeah, Coach
him,
Jackson
right?
State. Yeah, former Jackson State coach. It said the biggest star on that Sunday turned out to be Isaac Holt. He shadowed Rice. Rice caught 8 passes for 134 yards and a touchdown, both well below his average.
Yeah, he was on fire back then. Everybody knew that. That's why he was the number 1 pick to the 49ers. But, yeah.
Final score, Alcorn won 42-28. Looks like they had a huge lead by halftime. Actually, halftime score was 28-7.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that's that game they talk about on ESPN, isn't it? Against Marino Castle and the gunslinger Archie Cooley. They do a little segment on that one.
Yes,
I see it on ESPN every so often.
Yeah, this is considered, I mean, one of the games of the century.
Yeah,
at least according to the article. Like I said,
yeah, I seen a segment. Matter of fact, they're saying Marino Castle is one of the only coaches to ever beat Eddie Robinson like 4 times straight, which is incredible because we all know that man was a hell of a coach. So I was like, wow, okay. I've learned a lot about Marino Castle. Of course, I told you I met Archie Cooley back in 2006. And it was just an honor to shake that man's hand and get 15 minutes of verbal talk to him. Verbal time with him. I was impressed with him. Great guy. Once again, I'm trying to break in so I can do the things those guys did, help young black men keep moving forward.
Edwin Moore said, insiders say Coach Castle told them at halftime if they didn't win, that they would be riding the bus alone back to the reservation. Interesting. One other fact here, and then we'll kind of get going. Just in case anybody didn't know, the offense of the 90s, Valley entered the game ranked 5th in the nation thanks to its high-octane offense, tabbed Phi Lookum Jukum. Oh, that's an awesome name. That's awesome. Phi Lookum Jukum. You remember Phi Slamma Jamma, right? From Houston, yeah?
Yeah, University of Houston, Clyde Drexler.
Yeah. Which actually was right around the same era as this. So I wonder, I wonder if they kind of stole a little flavor from off of this. But anyway, Valley's offense was being referred to as, quote, the offense of the 90s in the mid-80s. Looking back, it was even more ahead of its time. Heading into the matchup, Alcorn State, heading into the matchup with Alcorn State, Valley averaged 64 points per game. And, and as Steve said here, a devilish 666.6 per contest, yards per contest. Yeah, that is. Oh, look at Steve, the wordsmith that he is. Shout out to Stephen Gaither. Again, this is a great article. I'll put this one in the chat. I don't know if this was the article that Kelvin was referring to, but
real quickly, in case people don't know, the 49ers, when they was winning all those Super Bowl championships, that was Mississippi Valley's offense. And it wasn't called the West Coast offense. They didn't know what to call it. It was Bill Parcells, who was coaching the Giants. He named it the West Coast offense because when they was getting ready to go play him, they said, you getting ready to go out west to play Bill Parcells? He said, yeah, in that West Coast offense. And that's where the name came from. But that everything that they were doing, and Bill, and rest in peace, Bill Walsh, was a head of a coach. He'll let you know. He got everything he got from Archie Cooley. Now, what people don't know is they offered Archie Cooley everything under the sun except the head coaching job to come to the 49ers and actually coordinate that offense, but he wouldn't leave. He wouldn't leave. He wouldn't leave.
Interesting. Wow. Little history moment. Good stuff, Coach. Good stuff. Okay. Well, let's kind of get into some of the action that you saw. And we got to start with the Thursday game. There is a great article via Twitter that Kendrick, D2 HBCU football guy. And if you don't follow at D2 HBCU football, you're missing a great follow. But anyway, he taught you watched this game, obviously. This is Thursday.
Yes,
this
sir.
is a Thursday night game between Edward Waters and Benedict. Benedict, the defending Division II, or the in many purposes, the non-Division I, Division II, mid-major, however you want to call it. They were the HBCU national champs of that last season, the last 2 years, really. So I'm gonna. It's hard to really put. I wish I could put into context what happened here fully, but I'll let you kind of go through some of your thoughts from the game, and then I'll see if I can summarize without reading the entire article. But I may have to read the entire article just to kind of talk about what happened. And again, the article is called "Clock Confusion and Controversy: SIC Showdown Between Edward Waters and Benedict." So, Coach, go ahead and share some of your thoughts on what you saw from that Thursday contest.
I think what he's talking about is the last couple minutes of the game. We'll pick that back up. But Thursday, good game. Start off with a kick return. Benedict got the ball first, took it down, kick return, then first play, quarterback, first play, touchdown, quick slant to the house. Boom, okay? Turn around, kick it off. Who was they playing? It was Benedict and Edward Waters. Edward Waters fumbles. Okay, let me say something real quickly. I don't allow fumbles. Everybody knows I like to run the ball. There's no secret to it. Leopards don't change their spots. I like big old linemen. We run the ball. Every day in practice, we work 20 minutes a day to practice holding that ball. So if you fumble, you're done. Come on to the sideline, take your helmet off, take a deep breath, get you some water, and just support your team, because we don't do fumbles. Fumbles is the enemy in my offense. Now, back to what I was saying. Very next play. This is all within 12 seconds. Touchdown. Quarterback. He threw 2 touchdowns back-to-back. So it's 14-0. I'm thinking, it's about to be a blowout. It's about to be a blowout. Then the very next play, kickoff, 2-point conversion in the end zone, safety. Now we're at, what is that, 16-0? 17 seconds off the clock. I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be ugly. I'm thinking, I'm not going to watch this thing. It's going to be ugly. But then Edward Waters, shout out to both quarterbacks. I don't know their names, but both quarterbacks played well. You know, those teams rely on those guys. Really, they do. Both quarterbacks played well. Really wasn't much running game. Offensive line did a good job of pass blocking. I saw once again, you know, I'm an O-line coach. So I saw the butts down, the backs arch, hands up, good feet work. They kept the quarterbacks upright. Now, there was some running, but it wasn't just a ton of running. Most of that game was passing.
Here, I got your quarterback. I got your quarterback names for it. Edward Waters, Keith Moore II. He was 13 of 18, 201 yards, 2 touchdowns, only sacked 1 time. For Benedict, Charles Simmons, he was 12 of 26, 177 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was sacked 1 time.
He threw 4 touchdowns?
He threw 4 touchdowns. Yeah.
Okay. I thought he threw 3. I thought he threw 3, ran 1, but he had a heck of a game. No doubt about it. He had a heck of a game. The O-line did a good job. Like I said, there was a couple of sacks there. There was some special teams. One time, mid-third quarter, I think it was a punt, and it rolled all the way, and I forgot who it was. I think it was Benedict. It rolled all the way to the 3-yard line. They got it. Then there's a penalty. Somebody did something foolish, so they had to repunt it. The punter, same thing. This time he punted it to the 1-yard line, so they had to start from the 1. So I was like, that's good special teams right there, working on that. There was a block kick in the game. It was a good game. Really, it was a good game. And then let's go fourth quarter.
So hold on. Let me come back for a second, because at the end of the first quarter, the score was 25-13. 38 points.
Yeah.
First quarter.
Yeah.
And when you look at the drive chart from that game, you had everything. You had a touchdown. You had a fumble. You had another touchdown. Let me see. I'm just going through it here. Let me see. Benedict touchdown, Edward Waters fumble. Benedict touchdown, Edward Waters touchdown. Punt by Benedict. Edward Waters safety. Benedict touchdown. Edward Waters touchdown. Benedict punt. That's all the first quarter.
First quarter was exciting. After it got going, after those 14 seconds, it got going. It was like, okay, this is going to be a game.
Yeah, it kind of leveled out from there as Edward Waters outscored Benedict 7-0 in the second quarter to cut the deficit to 25-20 at the half. They took a lead at the end of the third quarter. So 28-25 was your score at the end of the third quarter. And then, of course, the fourth quarter happened. The fourth quarter happened.
Go ahead.
Well, okay, so just kind of recapping here a little bit from the article. It was made very clear that the clock early in the first quarter, the play clock malfunctioned. So the officials were keeping time on the field from early in the ball game, in the first quarter of the ball game, right? Okay, so moving all the way to a minute 41 left in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Edward Waters appeared to be in control and heading for a win. And I'm reading exactly from Kendrick's article here.
Yeah.
On a critical 3rd and 2, chaos erupted when sophomore offensive lineman Jalen Kaiser's helmet was ripped off, causing the play to be blown dead.
Mm-hmm.
As Kaiser ran to the sideline, confusion set in, exacerbated by the earlier play clock malfunction. Both coaches were left wondering how much time was truly left. The referee seemed unsure of what to do next. The officials blew several whistles, but no one seemed to have a grasp of the situation. Edward Waters coach Toriano Morgan was seen on video saying, quote, "That's 45 seconds. We don't have to snap it." While Benedict's coach Dickerson is seen saying, quote, "He," meaning Coach Morgan, "called a timeout," while the events were being explained to him. This reading more. Even as play was about to resume, neither head coach was sure about what was taking place, with both coaches asking, "What are we doing?"
Mm-hmm.
Fans, viewers were left in disbelief as to what was happening as this was playing out live on national television. Right? According to NCAA rules, the NCAA rules state if a helmet comes off under 2 minutes, the opposing team can either accept or decline a 10-second runoff. If declined, the clock resumes on the snap, potentially placing the team trying to run down the clock at a disadvantage. And if it is a rule that needs to be tweaked, so let me see. That's what occurred. And if you go to look at the plays there in the fourth quarter, Coach, with 4 seconds left. Now, I'm just going here off of the play-by-play. So, with 4 seconds left, actually, was there an extra? There was extra. Yeah, there was 4 seconds left where Benedict was on the Edward Waters 8-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where on the final play of the game, there was an 8-yard touchdown, which gave them the win.
Yes. First win for Benedict's coach. But I was kind of confused in that situation myself. I did not know that was an NCAA rule. I remember this. I know if a helmet comes off, the young man has to come out the game. They stop the clock. They can resume play. He can come in the next play. I did not know it was an NCAA rule. A friend of mine today had to call me and say, "No, coach, that's been a rule for a while." And I'm like, I got to go back and read my rule book because I was with the coaches. I was confused. And they were like, "What would you have done in that situation?" I'd have said, "Well, since I don't know the rule, I'd have asked the referee, hey, what is the rule?" And then I would have called the other coach over. Because to take 10 seconds away from somebody, win or lose, that's a lot of time, and everything like that. Now, if you're up, you want to take those 10 seconds away. And if you're down, you need those 10 seconds. So, and there's nothing you can do right there. That's something that NCAA has to resubmit into the rule book, something like that. But I'm like, to take 10 seconds away, okay, it's not bad enough the kid had to go out the game. Then they say his helmet was ripped off. So I'm saying, well, is that unnecessary roughness? Did the kid who ripped his helmet off, does he go out the game? They're like, no, they assessed the penalty. And I'm like, oh, so I understood the confusion. After a while, I had to clarify it in myself in my own mind, like what is really going on here? But like the one coach said, that's 45 seconds. I mean, it took a minute and a half just to get, back in coherency to finish up the game. And like I say, congratulations to Benedict, first win. Were they 0-2 going into this game, Bryan? And then they won this one, especially after that. The last 2 years have just been phenomenal for them. Of course, Coach Berry's at South Carolina now. Coach Dickerson, he's the son of Ron Dickerson. People don't know, but his dad was the head coach at Temple. And I know this for a fact because I remember studying it. His dad was the coach at Temple. He was good friends with Bill Cosby. I know a lot of people frown at Bill Cosby. I still love the guy. Bill Cosby paid his salary while he was the football coach. I don't know what he was paying him, but obviously we know Bill ain't broke. So Bill Cosby, because Temple couldn't afford him. So Bill Cosby paid the salary for that guy I think he was there like 3 years, everything like that. But congratulations to that coach for getting his first win. It was a good game. That last minute and a half was very confusing, but it helped me out. So if I'm ever in that situation, I'll know now how to, assess the situation because, once again, I don't yell and scream at referees. You don't win no points by that. But I was confused like, okay, helmet came off. He goes out. Let the play go. Get him back in. Let's keep going. We only got so many seconds to go. What are you doing, ref? And it was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then, like you said, the ref was confused. And then with the clock being messed up at the beginning of the game, that's iffy right there. Come on, man. Come on. So, it was what it was. Congratulations to Benedict. Edward Waters is a good team. I have no doubt they'll bounce back. The season, keep saying it's still early because what we got, week 4? So we're like, and it's not mid-season, but we're not early. We're right there. So I got no doubt Edward Waters will turn the corner. They got a good team. That quarterback, though, he's a good one. So far, I've seen some good quarterback play. And these guys ain't been 6'4", 6'5", 220. These guys have all been 5'9", 5'11", 170, 180, and just can play the game called football.
Yeah. So the clock issue in this game is, and Kendrick in that article had hinted about this, but I am aware of a formal protest that is being filed by Edward Waters University to the SIAC regarding this contest. Now, whenever you have a protest of a contest, first of all, let me ask you, have you ever been a part of a game that has been formally protested from your either by yourself or your athletic administrator?
No, sir, I have not.
Okay. So it obviously you hear about these things, but you always have to kind of think about, okay, if you protest the outcome of the game. Now, there are circumstances that happen within this game that would seem to open the conference up to some questionable decision-making by the referees. Okay. Because as my understanding of the situation from the Edward Waters angle, they feel like the communication from the officials to Coach Morgan was inconsistent. I dare even say incoherent, because they didn't seem to quite know themselves what they were doing. For example, Coach Morgan is trying to verify the clock situation.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's doing the math on this situation, he knows that there's a certain amount of time that he has in between a play and what he has and whether he has to snap and doesn't have to snap, right? But if your officials aren't keeping the right clock or doing their job because the clock that everybody sees is not accurate, what are you supposed to do? And so
go ahead.
Well, I'm saying that's where a large part of the confusion goes, because Coach Morgan is being told one thing, and you've got the sideline official communicating to the head official, and what they're saying to each other is not accurate. So it's pretty much, I hate to say it, this is a cluster F. This is a cluster.
Yeah.
I mean, it is
coach,
major, and it's all. And the crazy part is, it's all playing out on national TV. So if on ESPN, and it's not, this is on a Thursday night when you have the National Football League with a slow game that's happening. I mean, that Jets Patriots game was slow. Put me to sleep by halftime. Put me to sleep. I was out. Literally,
I was watching the other game, so I didn't see that one. But
yeah, it was so bad, Coach, that by the time I flipped back over to the Benedict Edward Waters game, it was like at the end of the ball game, and I'm watching the last play, and I'm like, wait a minute, what time is it? I'm like, why is this game still happening at? Whatever. I mean, the game. Hold on, let me see if I have it here. The total time.
I was thinking the same thing because it went late, and I was like, wow. I get up in the morning, go to the gym, and it cut into my beauty rest. I'm like, what's going on here? But I do want to say this, though. Shout out to both universities. I saw the crowd on both sides. It showed enthusiasm for Thursday night. I was impressed, and I was pleased as an HBCU guy to see the crowds, the cheerleaders, the band. I thought it was a real good game. Oh, my Seahawks just beat Miami. Okay. We 3-0. Oh. Anyway, back to the game. Bryan,
that game took 4 hours and 12 minutes.
Wow.
The kickoff was 8:03, which first off, that's ridiculous. That the kickoff was at 8:03. I mean, literally, really on a Thursday, you're starting a game at 8:03. But anyway, and it ended at 12:15 in the morning. Now, the SIC notorious for running games into the next day, obviously. Notorious.
It's funny that you said it because I remember last week we were talking about that. We were talking about that one game that went to.
Exactly.
And when that game kept going so long,
that.
I'm thinking, I wonder if Bryan's jinxed or something like that because this game is going long. And when I looked at the clock, I'm like, I'm supposed to be in bed right now. What's going on? But it was a good game. I didn't want to miss it, but it was long. It was long. And it probably did that, Bryan, because of the NFL game.
I hope not. I hope that's not why they did that. That game should not have started. That game should have started at 7 o'clock. In Columbia, South Carolina, really? Why are you starting that game at 8 o'clock? I don't understand why that game started at 8. Now, maybe there was some.
Why not a 6 o'clock kickoff? Why not a 6 o'clock kickoff?
Even that. I mean, well, I know why you don't want to do 6 because you want to be in that prime time window of 7. But 8 o'clock, really? But anyway, okay. So let me go back to this formal protest that's being filed. That I'm hearing is being filed by Edward Waters. So a couple of options that Edward Waters appears to be requesting from the conference. One is that the officiating crew from that game be suspended for the entire season.
That's not going to happen.
Okay. 2, that officiating crew does not work any Edward Waters football games at all. And then
for the rest of the season, or at all, like for the rest of the
look, I think
I like that. Hey, look.
I would say it may both may be on the table. Let me say that. Both may be on the table. And then lastly, which I think is going to be the hard part, you can't change the outcome of the game. Can you? But can you request that the game doesn't count against you? Meaning that if you want to say that you want to give Benedict the game because of the outcome, but let's just say if the clock was correctly taking, if the officials had done their job with the clock, Edward Waters should not have lost that game, right?
True.
So, is it realistic for Edward Waters to want to say that game should not count against us?
They can say that, but that's not going to happen. You know, they don't change games. Unfortunately,
but you're not changing the outcome. I mean, but are you really? If you're saying it's two things, it's saying I think there's one thing is saying we know you can't change the outcome for Benedict, but as it relates to us, that game should not count against us. I don't know if there's ever been a case of that happening in football where one team gets a win and the other team gets a
no contest. To win, but who did? Well, we played this team, but it didn't go against them, so we just technically that would be sort of like a forfeit, wouldn't it? You played the game, but technically that'd be like a forfeit because we actually did beat you, but there was some technicalities, and so it's not going to count against us. But you get to win.
But if the rule, but here's the thing about that: if the rules were administered properly, do you lose that game?
No,
that's the hard part. That's the argument that Edward Waters has. Edward Waters can say the rules of the game were not administered properly. They had nothing to do with on the field. So if on the field, because you played it and you let them have a play, they scored. Okay. But that play should have never happened. That play would have never happened. Had the clock and the situation with the clock and other rules had been administered properly. That's the contention I think that Edward Waters has. And
I think that has to be something between the universities because it's not going to change. Bryan, Benedict got to win. I know we got to keep moving forward, but I think if I'm the president at Edward Waters, I call the president Benedict and say, hey, we need to be compensated somehow, some way, because technically we both know we won that game, but in the books, you got it. And I want to say this, I never like when referees keep the time on the field. I get nervous and scared because you lose time. I always keep a stopwatch with me. Honestly, I always keep a stopwatch around my neck, and I keep my watch or my cell phone, and I always have one of my assistants keep a watch. So when we say, hey, what happened to the clock? Because we got on the field, my heart drops a little bit like, oh, wow. And then I'll say, hey, look at your watch. And every 3 minutes, tell me, coach is 2:02, coach is 2:05. I need to know the time. And I set my stopwatch or anything like that because you're going to lose some time. And then think about this. They're human. They're trying to referee a game. They're trying to make sure everybody's safe. And they lose a couple seconds.
It's 11 o'clock at night.
You know what I'm saying?
It's 11:30 at night. Those guys are probably like, hell, this is past my bedtime. That's what those guys might be thinking.
You know, hey, and we don't care about who wins or not anyway. We ain't got no dog in this fight. So, hey, Benedict, you get it. Let's go home. See you guys. Now, as far as they're trying to say protest the referees, they can see we don't want them no more this year. But as far as not 25, 26, hey, you know, it'll always be remembered you guys made a mistake. Let's please make sure we don't do that again. But you're not going to bar them from refereing that game ever again. You could probably say, I don't want them the rest of this season. And I can see the SIAC saying, okay, I agree with you. We're not going to give you that crew.
Yeah. All right. We're over on the break. Let's take a short break, Coach, and come back and let's get back into the couple other games that you had talked about that you had on your docket and some of our other top games. So I want to kind of catch us up and kind of keep moving. So you're watching the BCSN SportsWrap right here on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be back in just a moment.
Aloha.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him.
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up message quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
This is Bryan Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN SportsWrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN SportsWrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Hey, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Joining me and Coach now is my guy, J-Dub. Jamie Walker in the house. Jamie, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. How y'all feeling?
Jamie, how you doing, brother? Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Coach. What it do, sir?
Man, it's always happening, always happening. Just hoping it starts happening for me. You know what I'm saying?
I understand, man. I hope it starts happening for my Aggies too.
Yeah. I wasn't going to start there, but we don't have to start there, Jamie. I know that's a touchy subject.
No, it's not touchy. It is what it is.
It is, yeah. It is what it is. So what is it, Jamie? I mean, 66-24, the Eagles roll out just the can of beatdown. I don't know. Is that the word? I mean, I gotta imagine you guys put a beating on them like that before. Is that one of the most lopsided wins for either side in the history of this series?
I mean, it wasn't that long ago we beat them 54-0. So no. There's been some lopsided games, but like I told people, because folks, it is what it is. The 4-time Celebration Bowl, #1 public HBCU, in the world, we'll be fine. We lost the game yesterday. We'll be all right. We'll be okay.
See, that's what
when I saw, not to cut you off, BF, but when I saw that score, Jamie, I said that looked personal. Now I know North Carolina, Central, they've been on like back-to-back losses and everything like that. So I'm thinking maybe they just wanted to say, hey, we got a good team here, and who better than show it against our competitor? But when I saw that score, I said that looked personal. But now that you told me what you guys did a couple years ago, I'm saying that goes in about right.
I mean, it's like anything else, man. When you're against a heated rival, certain things happen. The chirping goes on. It's been what it's been. But at the end of the day, they have a really good team. And along with that, we aren't where we're supposed to be right now as a program. Just quite honestly, we're not playing really good football at all. And I think that when you're talking about just the way that the team is made up, just the way the mistakes still continue to happen, there's going to be some drawing board stuff that they're going to have to go back and try to correct. And I think there's some interior things that may need to be looked at as well, as far as the makeup, as far as, some people have been vocal, especially on social media, about just how the team is structured, who they're not going to, what kind of players they're recruiting at this point, what's important in relation to whether or not the academics is kind of, which all colleges should be, but whether or not it's just a different kind of player that's being recruited or a different kind of player on the team. So, no excuses. We got beat to sleep yesterday. It is what it is, but we'll be fine. There's been 0-20, we were 0 for 2 years at some point. We've had darker days, but it wasn't our finest hour at all yesterday.
Yeah. What was that? What was the talking? What was the talking? I've heard Coach had mentioned the talking like it being personal, but weren't there some quotes floating around from one coach, from whether it be from your Aggie side or something that Trey Oliver had picked up on and was.
Yeah, he was picking up on just a banter back and forth. And Coach Brown had said something to the effect of A&T has accomplished more than the little school down the highway. Just going in within the talk. about just things that occur. So that's what he was referring to yesterday. So, like I said, I get it. Coach Oliver is a tremendous coach, but also a big talker as well. So, it is what it is. When you have those kind of words out there and you do what they did yesterday, hey, he's going to use that as fuel, rightfully so.
All right. So one of the games that we had highlighted going into last week was the Jackson State trip to Grambling. We saw Jackson State the week before look good in the win over Southern. We saw Grambling go on the road, get a win in overtime against Texas A&M Commerce, forcing 6 turnovers. So this one's set up for a great showdown, I thought.
Me too.
Yeah, I think a lot of people thought that going in. I wouldn't say we actually got that, though. Although, it had its moments. Grambling State jumped out, scoring 2 touchdowns on their opening 2 drives in the first quarter to grab a 14-0 lead. Jackson State would come back and get within 1 point had it not been for a botched extra point attempt, would have tied the game up at 14 in the second quarter. But that botched attempt left the score at 14-13. Grambling State would score another touchdown to go into the half, 21-13. Let's start with the first half, Coach, because you watch this. Before I move to the second half, let's start with the first half and what we're seeing there in the first half. Grambling State 21-13.
Well, let's go back. I thought that Jackson State was going to come out with a little more enthusiasm, a little more hurrah, a little more fight, especially after the way they pulverized Southern. That was a big game. You got something to build on. I didn't see that. They started a whole different quarterback. I don't know that young kid's name. I don't know if he's a freshman, but I thought Jacoby Morgan was their guy. I thought he's done enough to say, hey, this is my job, ride with me. They got a good running game. They got a big line. They're physical, but they didn't really run the ball last night. The new quarterback, it's almost like I was talking to a friend of mine.
Could they run the ball?
Huh?
Could they run the ball? You said they didn't run it, but could they run it?
Well, if they could, they didn't, and I thought that's what their bread and butter was going to be, that the run game, because they got some big boys in front, and they got good backs. And so I hadn't seen Grambling play last night until last night. So I was very impressed with Grambling, offense, defense, special teams wise. Mickey's doing a good job down there. Grambling, Miles Crosby did a great job of throwing the ball. They didn't really run the ball well either, but they threw it well. Miles Crosby did a good job of throwing it. He's got a good arm. We know that. We know he's a good quarterback. Once again, I was kind of I just kept looking like, where's the Jackson State we saw last week? And then the offense looked lethargic. Like, come on, TC, brother, you can't do that. You got to stay on a high level and everything like that. But it wasn't that way. And then like I say, when they tied it, I thought it was going to be a tie. Then they botched the kick, 14-13. I'm like, okay, that's not, you're still right there. You're still right there. There's a couple things you need to do. You need to run the ball better. And where's Jacoby Morgan? That's your guy. So at halftime, it's 14, correct?
21-13 at the end of the half. Cameron McCoy was the quarterback there that started the game for Jackson State. He was 8 of 17, 140, a touchdown, and an INT at that point by halftime. And then it was going into the start of the third quarter in which they decided to go to Jacoby Morgan.
Yeah, they went to Jacoby Morgan third. He came in, he threw it was like a stop route. The receiver stopped, picked it up. And it was funny, too, because it looked like the DB was coming to him, and he just shrugged his shoulder, and the guy fell off of him. He ran for about 40, 50 yards to the house. So I'm like, okay, there's your quarterback right there. Boom, we're ready to go. But after that, I think that was pretty much it for Jackson State. There was nothing offensively that I can remember that they did. And then, Grambling kept the ball from them a lot. Grambling had the ball a lot. Jackson State played a lot of defense. And Grambling, they running game wasn't just 10, 12 yards a pop. It was 2-3 yards, cloud of dust, 5 yards here, 5 yards there. But it was good enough to keep them off the field. And like I say, I was just shocked that Jackson State didn't play a lot better. Really, I was, especially coming off that big game from Southern. I expected more from them. I really did. Now, of course, people calling for TC's head. I'm like, come on, you guys, that's not fair. Last week, you wanted to give him roses. Now you want him to pack his bags up. That's not fair. But I just need TC to beat TC, because right now I'm asking, who are you? You know, it's kind of like when I texted you earlier. Remember that movie? What's Love Got to Do with It? And I don't beat on women, but remember that time when Ike Turner was he looked at Ike and he told Anna Mae, like, you better find yourself. That's what TC needs to do with him. He needs to find himself, because right now I'm wondering which one are you? Are you the guy that everybody said that's the reason why Deion took the offense from you, or you the guy we saw last week that ran that offense so well and smooth? So TC needs to have a good check himself, and it's still long. They got a long season, but I was impressed with Grambling. But Southern, I mean, Jackson State, I was just like, wow, come on, you guys. They got to get it right. Jacoby Morgan is your quarterback, period. Stay with him. You'll have a good season.
It's been McCoy that apparently the guys in the, those who know, they say, who is it? Crook said it's been McCoy who started the last 3 games, also been hurt in each of these last 3 games. So I know, it is what it is. Let me pick up from the halftime there. You mentioned it. Coming out of the halftime, Jackson State would cut the deficit again to a 1-point deficit after a 66-yard touchdown play by Jacoby Morgan to Janaylon Dupree. On the next Jackson State offensive possession, this is kind of where I think the wheels started to fall off for Jackson. Grambling State recovers a fumble for a touchdown and builds their lead 28-20. Then the following Jackson State offensive possession, Morgan is intercepted inside of the 30. Then Grambling on offense goes 4 plays, 13 yards to take a 35-20 lead. Jackson State's offense would fumble 2 more times in the fourth quarter. In total, 5 turnovers by Jackson State. 3 fumbles, 2 INTs. So do the math. Over 2 games, the Grambling State defense, 6 turnovers last week, 5 yesterday. But when I go and look at the total yardage, I think I had it up here. Jackson State outgained Grambling 438-271.
Really?
438-271.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think you got to give this to the defense, honestly, because I looked at those same stats just as the game was going on, and they were able to move. Jackson State was able to move the ball, but I think turnovers and the inability to stop Grambling's offense was the thing that did them in. I think, they got outside themselves maybe a little bit offensively, because I think the established identity, especially in the Southern game, was they're going to be a downhill running team and play action pass from it. But I think, based on Grambling's ability to be able to come back over that deep, and score, because they would, matching wits with Grambling for a while. But then both offenses kind of stalled. But Grambling showed the ability to kind of, continue moving the chains and staying ahead of the chains and kind of just being able to match wits. But then at the end, the turnovers and Jackson State's inability to stop, Miles Crawley, who played a really good game, especially towards the end, I think did them in. I think they'll be fine. Coach, I think you're exactly right. I think they'll be fine. But I do think eventually they'll have to stick with one quarterback. They'll have to stick with one. And I'm like you, at the beginning of the season, I thought Jacoby Morgan was going to be that guy, especially based on what they said they wanted to do. Because I think, based on just his size, his mobility, his pocket presence, and this is without me knowing McCoy, I thought Jacoby Morgan was the shoe-in for the job. But credit, TC being able to, Coach TC being able to come in and kind of know his team. But I think eventually as SWAC play goes on, they're going to have to settle on a guy. Even though football is so week to week. So the ability to game plan, comes in as well. So we'll see. I'm with you, Coach. I'm wondering how that quarterback situation ends up, just making out for Jackson State.
Given some of the scores within the SWAC yesterday, And obviously, the two biggest games had to be for various reasons. Southern's overtime win over Prairie View and Bethune losing to Division II Clark. But how would you power rank the SWAC, Jamie? Like if I asked you who's the top three, I'm not even gonna ask you top five because that might be hard. But if I asked you top three teams in the SWAC, where would you go with top three teams in the SWAC right now?
Wow. FAMU being one. I would say, still. For the time being. But I tell you what, that race is, I think even in a loss, Jackson State is still right up there. I think they just got to shore up some things. And it's like anything else when you're playing this, because it's still a non-conference game. They play with Grambling, so I think they still.
Are you sure? Hold on, not to cut you off, but someone told me that was a conference game. Was that a conference game?
No, it was a non-conference conference game. Meaning
that's what I thought. That's what I told somebody. I said, no, that was a non-conference conference game. Like, no. I said, okay, we'll see. But I'm glad to say that. Not to cut you off, James, but yeah, I just want to throw that out there because I knew I was right. I knew I was right.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. They got the East in front of them. But FAMU, I would say clear-cut number one right now. I would say in that 2 spot. This is difficult at this point because Prairie View would have probably taken it. You got to give it. Wow. If you go strictly off the win-loss, right now it's got to still be Jackson State up there. I would say Grambling and Jackson State up there right now. Because just simply based on how the play is developing, I'm not sure what you get from Alabama State. And that's only because defensively, I think they're all there. Are you going to win games with that defense going forward? Alabama and A&M didn't have a good showing yesterday, either. I think in the West is wide open. Texas Southern is playing really good ball. I hated that they lost that game yesterday, last night.
Big opportunity missed.
Yeah, huge opportunity, but we are not giving them enough credit either. So I would have to say Alabama State is eking up there. I would say they're if you're giving top three, they would be 4, only because we I guess haven't seen enough, but those would be the top 3 right now.
All right. I mean, Coach, I know you haven't paid attention to everybody in the conference, but among the teams that you've seen from the SWAC, who's impressed you the most?
As much as I hate to say it, and I'm not against the brother, but Jackson State. That game against Southern was just, my mouth just to the ground like, wow, okay, that's the team this guy's been talking about. I got a good team. And I know everybody's talking about McCoy at quarterback. And once again, I play 2 quarterbacks. Some people say, you can't do that. Sure you can. I think Jacoby Morgan just a tad bit better than McCoy. So you can play both of them because it makes the defense strategize against 2 quarterbacks who I got to see on Saturday. Don't just strategize on one. You got to do 2. But I think Jacoby Morgan just gives them something extra. Once again, he came in last night and within, seconds to a touchdown. Boom, touchdown. Now the receiver made it happen, but he threw it to him. And I just think he's the better guy. Me being a coach, seeing both of them play, I think Jacoby Morgan's better. So I would say Jackson State, I've seen I would say Jackson State's probably the team I'm most impressed with. Nothing against your guys, FAMU and everything like that. I know you fought the back-to-back losses to the D1s, everything like that. You're a good team. But from what I've seen over the last couple of weeks, I would say Jackson State would be my team. I would say would be number one, the one I would go with.
I can't disagree because I'll put it like this. If I had to power rank the top 3 teams, I would definitely say Grambling and Jackson State sit right there with FAMU.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah. Those are the 3 best right now.
I pause when I look at Alabama State and Southern because of inconsistencies on offense. But from a defensive perspective, those two teams. But me putting FAMU in that top three is not me saying FAMU is the best. I'll say that. If you ask me to power rank, I do not have us ranked as the top team in the SWAC right now. I don't. Now, like I said, that's the crazy part about trying to analyze these non-conference FBS games against FCS games. It really does throw your senses off because you don't really, you can't fully understand who your team is. And this is what I think the scheduling of what Grambling's schedule has done for them. They started off with an FBS opponent. Then they moved to a Division II. Then they moved to an FCS team that's transitioning out of D2. And let me say this, for people who are looking at that team that's transitioning from D2 to FCS, they were a good D2 team, right? And then you move into an FCS team. So look at the progression of Grambling's schedule, where now they've won 3 games in a row. It's been a progression from like a tough opponent to build back up. And now they're about to run into SWAC season with Prairie View this upcoming week. And I think Grambling's going to be alive. I think they're going to be live to run. I'm not going to say nobody's going perfect, but I won't be shocked if I see at the end of the year Grambling going into the Bayou with just 1 loss. I will not be shocked at all.
I agree with you there, Brian. They look, I mean, once again, I hope that they don't happen to them. What happened to Jackson State? I mean, look good, and then next week you look bad. I don't know nothing about Prairie View. What's going on over there with Bubba and his boys and things of that sort. But I know he's a good coach and he'll get it right. But from what I saw last night, Grambling looked good. But I'm gonna still say this: it's early, and Jackson State will still have something to say about what happens in the SWAC if they can figure out their quarterback position. TC, listen to me. Jacoby Morgan's your guy, brother. Jacoby Morgan's your guy.
That's your guy. All right, let's wrap it up with the game of the weekend because, Coach, you watched it. You saw it.
Yes, I did.
And it was none other than Clark, Atlanta, rat poison, invading Daytona Beach, poisoning them poor folks down there on the beach. Yeah. Clark, Atlanta rallies from a 28-7 first quarter. So let me just put this into the etherverse. The first quarter by Bethune-Cookman might have been one of the best first quarters that you might ever see.
Mm-hmm.
Bethune got 7 first downs, 10 of 10 passing, 220 passing yards, all in the first quarter. 28, 4 drives, 4 touchdowns, and really benefited from Clark's opening offensive possession where Bethune got the ball first to open the game. They scored. Then Clark turned the ball over on downs. They went for it on 4th down in their own territory, gave the ball back to Bethune on short yardage. Bethune comes back, hits them with a touchdown. They're up 14-0. And let me see. Let me see it. Give me a second. I had it all pulled up here, and then somebody from the Bethune site messed around with my stats.
You get hacked?
Yeah, no. They messed around with the drive chart.
Exactly what happened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So again, Bethune scores a touchdown on short field, like literally short field, starting from their own 7-yard line. That's short. So they score quickly in 2 plays. They're up 14-0. Next drive, Clark punts. 3 and out. Bethune, starting from their own 27, scores another touchdown, 3 plays, 73 yards. Now it's a 21-0 lead before Clark even scores their first points in the 4th quarter with 1:54 to play, with 2:24 to play. Clark finally gets on the board. Bethune's next offensive possession, their 4th of the quarter, Bethune goes 5 plays, 77 yards, scores another touchdown with 5 seconds remaining in the quarter. So again, talk about a perfect quarter. 28-7. Oh, but all things don't stay the same because they do not. They do not, because that was the most scoring that they did, and everything from that point forward was just a flip of Bethune scoring. Bethune scored 6 points in the second quarter. Clark actually did manage to get a touchdown, so the halftime score is 34-14.
Mm-hmm.
But as I told people, because I had, people were texting me, right? They're like, "Oh, you done motivated Bethune, blah, blah, blah." I had people calling me literally like I somehow did something to inspire Bethune by predicting that Clark was going to beat them, right? Like I had that kind of, like I'm that guy. But anyway, I told him, I said, "Hey, is David Wright hurt?" They said, "No, he's still there." I said, "Oh, and there's still a second half?" I said, "Oh, well, y'all in trouble. Don't turn the TV set. Just watch the second half." And by God, I was right. Clark outscored Bethune 24-3 in the second half. Literally held Bethune to just a field goal in the second half. As Clark would, and it was amazing as Clark would just take opportunities. Let's not be real. It was not clean. There were some drives in there where Clark had to punt, but they held Bethune. They never let, but it's like the defense for Clark played well enough, and Bethune made enough mistakes at the wrong time to keep the door open. They never closed the door, and sure enough, they just reeled them in, and next minute Bethune, and the key drive here, and then I'll come to you, Coach. Key drive. Bethune, starting with 4:05 to play on their own 35-yard line, only managed 10 yards. So they got one first down. They did manage to chew up some clock, but they were forced to punt with 1 minute and 41 seconds left in the fourth quarter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And beautiful execution on the punt because the young man punted the ball and it went out of bounds at the 1-yard line.
Yes. So
here comes David Wright onto the field. 1 minute and 41 and 99 yards. Yeah, Jamie, I can see you shaking your head already. Yep. And everybody from Bethune is shaking their head like, I can't believe we let this sucker go. 99 yards to get to within field goal possession. And I'm just kind of looking at how many plays were in this drive.
Was it like 7?
It was a ton of plays. Let me see. I don't get a clean summary here. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's at least 12 plays. And the good thing is Clark still had timeouts. Clark used up 2 of their remaining timeouts in this drive, including on a 4th and 5 on their own 34, where David Wright gets a 7-yard play. That was the only 4th down in that drive. They got it all the way down to the Bethune 38-yard line with 3 seconds left. And then they send out Leonardo Cabrera.
Ole!
Never forget the name.
Wow.
The big guy rolls out there.
Hey, you ain't lying when you say big guy. I'm like, hey, he a D tackle.
and look.
Right, coach.
He's a big boy. Hey, and the announcers called it because they said that, I guess in their conversations with Coach Keaton, that they said Coach Keaton believed he could kick from 60.
Yeah.
So
he had room with that ball. He had room.
And when he put that ball up, you see it right down the middle. and it had an extra 5 yards on it plus.
Yes, it did.
And so Leonardo Cabrera, 55-yard field goal to win the game. Biggest upset of the season. All right, enough from me. Coach, your thoughts as you watch this game.
Okay, real quickly, there was a person last week when I got off. I stayed in the chat, I always do, and it was somebody he's a fan. So he or she, I don't know who it was, but they were saying there's no way we lose to a D2 next week. I said, you must not have seen this D2. They said, there's no way we lose to a D2. I said, have you seen this quarterback? They said, it doesn't matter, coach. I said, wait till Saturday. You're going to see. Has that person showed up in the comment yet? I figured that person would say, okay, coach, you were right. Because,
real quiet. In the chat room, they're real quiet.
That, yeah. I mean, David Wright, I was telling a friend of mine earlier today, I said, he's reminding me, well, once again, let's throw this out there. Have you noticed they've always started off 14 points down?
Yes.
It's like, hey, they start, and they don't panic. They're like, okay, okay. Right before halftime, the little pretty black woman, she interviewed Coach Keaton, and he said, we're being outmanned right now. We'll figure this out. And I was like, there we go. That's coaching. We're being outmanned, but we're going to get this right. LC Cole's the defensive coordinator. We all know he's a future Hall of Famer at the Black College level, any level, and he's a great one. And you could tell he wasn't very happy with his defense in the first half. He had some things to say to some guys. So I imagine at halftime, he went in there, he made some adjustments because they played much better second half than they did first half. Shout out to that quarterback from Bethune, though. That brother, I think he's like a Cam Newton. He's like, 6'4", 230. He can run and throw. He makes them much better.
6'3",
even though, 6'3", 230. He's a big kid. He can run and throw. He makes them much better. So hopefully that's their quarterback. Because I heard them saying that coach was saying he didn't know if he was going to go with him or someone else. I'm like, what are these coaches thinking? I'm sitting on the sideline here, and this is a no-brainer. That's your guy. He makes that offense so good. And even though it was a D2 team, that doesn't matter. He's a player. Okay, he made some good throws. He made some good runs. But Clark doesn't go away. They fight. They got it in them. They can fight. For Coach Keaton to pick up from Allen, go to Clark, and pick up where he left off at, I didn't think it was going to happen this year. Remember, I was telling AD, because AD was like, watch Clark this year. And I said, AD, come on, man. He's 3-4 best. He's 2 turning that corner. AD said, Coach Norman, I'm telling you, watch. And I'm like, wow. But anyway, both quarterbacks played well, but nobody played like that kid, David Wright. That kid there special. 5'9", 185, he's special. Once again, I told AD earlier, I said, if he's 6'3", 220, we're putting him in the same center we did Steve McNair up for the Heisman. That boy is real. That boy is real. Bryan, 2 times they had a 98 and a 99 drive to the house.
Yep.
They didn't really run. They live off his arm. Let's be real about it. They live off his arm. It's like the Dolphins in the 80s with Marino. They live off his arm, and it's golden. It's golden. And he's got 4 or 5 good receivers. They can catch it. The run game is somewhat steady, but it's him. It's him. It's that arm. It's those receivers. And it's the will to want to win. We talked about, me and you talked about this a couple weeks ago, like when will we see a small school beat a big school? And I always refer back to 96 when we was at Langston and we beat Grambling. Like I told you guys, it's your coach. He's got to coach you that week. The assistant's got to coach you. But it still goes down to those guys in that locker room. They never panic. Not once did I ever see them guys with their head down. Not once did I ever see them kick a water cooler like, okay, it's over. At one time, it was like 35-7, 33. I mean, it was a margin difference. And they never once panicked. That's believing in one another and believing in your quarterback. This kid with time to go. I tell people, another guy I got corrected today. He's talking about, oh no, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady. Those are good guys, but I'm an old school guy. I said, he reminds me of a Joe Montana, John Elway. As long as there's time on that clock, you can't breathe. He's going to make it happen. That boy is that good. And once again, I'm short. I'm 5'8". He's 5'9". So we're the same height. We both play quarterback. He's got a much better arm than I had. But if he's 6'3", 220, we're saying Heisman. We're saying first. We're putting him in the Shador conversation. We are. He's that good. He's that good. And as long as he stays healthy, they're going to go far. And I'm talking playoffs. I'm talking playoffs with Clark Atlanta. Real. First year, Coach King's doing a great job. I'm giving him Coach of the Year right now. I mean, he's balling. He's got them kids rolling. I know the season's still somewhat early moving down, but from what I see right now, offense, defense, special teams, but it all starts and ends with that quarterback. As long as he's healthy, hey, sleep well, because we're going to win. We're going to win. Like, wow, he's incredible. He's incredible. Shout out to AD Drew. He's the one who hit me to him last year, and I'm like, AD, he's 5'9". Come on, brother. I never paid attention to him last year until I saw him this year, and I was like, oh, wow. Okay, so if you don't know who David Wright is, please go watch him. Please go watch him. That little brother can play the game called football at a high level. It was a good game for the first half, and then, like I say, Clark just took over. Like the will to want to win. Bryan. That's what we talked about in the locker room. You have to have the will to want to win. Coaches can only do so much. Players, the will to want to win has to be within you. It starts with your quarterback, your O-line, your running back receivers, and that's what they had. They never once panicked. They never once quit. They believed in themselves. They won the football game. And I was just like, wow. So I'm looking for that person who says, there's no way we lose to a D2. And I said, you must ain't seen this quarterback. I ain't trying to brag or boast or anything like that because I think Bethune's going to be okay. Really, I do. I'm much impressed with Bethune now.
Do?
I do. I really do. Because remember a couple weeks ago when we first saw them, whoever they played that first game, I'm like, Bethune, what are you doing? And I said, I want to see them a month from now. I was impressed last night, only with that quarterback. He made that offense so much better. Really, he did. Even though people say, oh, it was a D2, it doesn't matter. Just look at football. That quarterback from Bethune made that offense so much better. That kid's a player, and they rallied around him. So I'm not going to say they're going to shake up the conference. They're not going to win the conference. No, they're not going to win the SWAC Celebration Bowl. But I will say this. You can't sleep on them because they will get you. They're that good. You're going to look up, it's 2021 with time going, and he's got the ball. And he's a big kid. He ain't coming down on that first hit, and he can throw that thing. So they're gonna make some people lose some sleep this year. You're not gonna be up. Oh, we got Bethune. No, you have to, coach. Here's some coffee. I mean, you're gonna have to stay up because they're gonna shake up some things this year. They're gonna ruffle some feathers. They're gonna ruffle some feathers, and everything like that. But shout out to Clark Atlanta. Shout out to Coach Keaton. It was a good game. I was very impressed. I do believe Bethune will shock some people. I don't know if they're gonna win 5 or 6, 7. I'm not gonna put that on them. But I'm gonna say this: as long as they got that quarterback, they're gonna be okay. They're gonna be okay.
Before I come to you, Jamie, that quarterback that coach is talking about from Bethune, Kim Ransom, 22 of 31. That's 71% for those who don't want to do math on Sunday. 382 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's passing. Then rushing, 11 carries, 79 net yards, and a touchdown. And just in case you wanted to know what David Wright did, 30 of 49, 374, 4 touchdowns, 1 INT, 21 net yards rushing. He had 2 ridiculous receivers, 2 of the top receivers in Division II. Jamal Jones had 10 catches for 127 yards. Armand Harris, 6 catches, 94 yards. 3 of them were touchdowns. Jamie, go.
Best quarterback in Black college football, regardless of division. And that coach summed it up in so many ways. I'm gonna start off with the point he made about Coach L.C. Cole. Knows more football than a lot of us will ever. He's forgotten more football than a lot of us have ever known. The defensive adjustments that he makes while being down is phenomenal. Because if you look at back at the Fort Valley game, same way, same instance where they were down, and then all of a sudden, we're back. Because the offense eventually comes around, and we just need to bend but not break. Yeah, we'll give up some yards, but you're not getting into the end zone in the second half, and that's just what they do. But it's just, it's very rare that you see the kind of synergy that you see between quarterback and offensive coordinator. In this case, head coach / offensive coordinator that you see with David Wright and Teddy Keaton. It's amazing. And 2 schools. Also, their ability to choose people that fit their offense, even coming to a new school. There were some players that, of course, he brought with him, but some players that remained and some players he got from other spots. Did not notice that Delancey Tolliver from Morehouse was on that Clark Atlanta squad as well. So player personnel is a thing now. It just is. And fitting who fits your system, it is a thing of beauty. But, man, there's not much I can say about this. And as far as the playoff run, like I said, I know we're jumping the gun. But this is the kind of offense I want to see going into the D2 playoffs, because you're not out of a ball game. And we've seen the last 2 playoff runs with Benedict, Black College Sports Network, and being able to broadcast that. And what you saw was offense being kind of stagnant. I want to see what goes on, and I want to see Clark Atlanta and Johnson C. Smith play in the worst way. I just, at this point, because I think John C. Smith has done the same thing and gotten a signal caller that can kind of advance the offense forward, where they can score with people and play defense. So, Clark Atlanta, I didn't think they would have, and I said it, I thought it would be close, and I thought those scholarships would be the difference. But clearly, the heart of a champion, Clark Atlanta.
Yeah, it was a great win. When I went and looked at the NCAA, you were talking about being the best quarterback in the NCAA. Well, the statistics do prove that, as right now among Division II NCAA passing leaders, David Wright III sits at the top of the passing yards list with 1,311 passing yards, 14 touchdowns, which is the most in NCAA, 3 interceptions. So that's a great touchdown to interception ratio. In terms of well, I guess that's the most important thing. I think when you look at passing yards, passing touchdowns, I don't know what other metric you might use if you were to look at completion percentage. I don't know, but anyway, trying to see if Wright falls anywhere in the high where he falls. I don't see him in the top 10, but anyway, in terms of passing yards and touchdowns, he's number 1 in Division II. So Harlan Hill Trophy, which is the equivalent of the Heisman for Division II football players, he should be on that watch list already. And I won't, while I love the call to be thinking about the playoffs already, what's happened to Benedict the last 2 years caused me to pump the brakes and just enjoy this season for what it is right now. And I'm interested to see, as Clark plays more SIC games, can they get off to good starts? Can they avoid starting from a hole in the first quarter, which, as you pointed out, Coach Farasi, that's what they have. They've been that for recent games, where they've started at least the 2 most notable games, the Fort Valley game and this Bethune, where they've started in a hole. So we'll see. Clark travels to Lane College this upcoming Saturday to take on the Dragons.
That should be a good one.
That should be a good one. I will encourage you, if you are not already paying attention to our good friend Sly the sports guy on HBCU Game Day. He does the Teddy Keaton show via HBCU Game Day. I think they will record it on Monday. And if it doesn't air Monday, it'll probably be Tuesday. I would encourage you to watch. Look, I haven't boasted as much as Sly is going to boast on that show. And I'm being real mild because I've done a lot of losing in the NFL today, so my ego is a little sore right now. But I'm just gonna tell you, Sly is going to he's gonna be like a peacock, and then his chest is gonna be out because
Sly gonna give the business. It's no doubt. It is no doubt. He's gonna say he told you a few times.
Well, there are a few of us out there, and so I salute my salute, tip of the cap to all of those who predicted Clark to beat Bethune. Your season's not over, Wildcats, but like Coach said, I think you found a quarterback. Now you just need to kind of ride that guy and let him do what he does, and maybe your season will turn around. So, all right, Coach, let me get you out of here. Any final thoughts or words, for the week?
Real quickly, Bryan, let me say this to the HBCU world, to the football coaches, football scouts. There's a young man at Morehouse College. I heard you guys talk about him earlier. Hopefully I said his name right. I know some people mess up my name, Farasi. His name is Amani Williams. He's a receiver, 6 feet, 180 pounds. He's real, fellas. He's a senior. He deserves our attention. Those bowl games at the end of the season, those HBCU classics, their all-stars, the All-American games, please look at that young man. and I'm guarantee you'll see what I see. He's real. He's real. He can be the next one of us from our level to go to the highest level and make us smile, because that kid's got everything you need to play at that level. Not very big. Probably needs to get in the weight room, like say about 6 feet, 170, 180. But when it comes to playing a game called football, that young man is real. I've been impressed with him. I'll let you know later in the week, BF. I'll watch 3 games next week so we can get back to this next week. Just so everybody know, hopefully everybody know, next Monday is a national holiday. What day is that? My birthday.
Okay. All right.
I'll be 52, and I'll be so blessed, man, that I'm still breathing and up and ground and just doing the things I do. I mean, I've come from the life I've lived, the projects, the ghetto, the hood, to do the things I did, the college education, to be where I'm at, to be 52. That's an accomplishment in itself. I've lost so many. So every morning I wake up and I start my day with the prayer saying, thanking God. When I'm on the way to the gym, I have a nice talk. You see me, he's like, who's he talking to? I'm talking to God, because I'm just saying, hey, thank you for things that you do for me. BF, thanks for being a friend. Jamie, thanks for joining us. AD, I know you're in the chat. What's up, player? And I will get with you guys next week.
All right, Coach. Be well. Be well.
Appreciate it, Coach.
And as Coach said, that young man Williams, he might be as strong as he might be short and small, but I'm seeing my guy EA post that FAMU wide receiver Zay Smith had a big game that helped the Rams defeat the Niners in his first regular season game, and he was given the game ball. So, hey, what they say, you can come from not just FAMU, but you can come from an HBCU and live your dreams. And you just got to have some patience and continue to have the work ethic, trust the process. And congratulations to Zay Smith in doing what he did and helping the Rams get a win, picking up a game ball, and his future is bright. We all knew it. And so we just kind of continue to lift him up, and hopefully he will continue having a great season with the Rams. All right, Coach, thank you for your time this evening. When Jamie and I come back, we're going to debut the BCSN Top 5 Football Rankings, the first official computer rankings of the 2024 football season right here on the BCSN SportsWrap. Hang tight with us. We'll be back in just a moment.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Hey, grab me one too.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember. They can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft. Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody. Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody. We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan and Jamie here to kind of close the show. Jamie, let me kind of go through just the scoreboard, give you a chance to kind of instant react. Any thoughts on any of these other games from out of the SWAC? We'll just kind of go conference by conference. Any of these games that kind of caught your eye, or any hot takes that you might have?
Of course, the Southern Prairie game definitely caught my attention. Because I think the fact that Southern is really playing hard for Coach Terrence Graves is important. I think whenever you're down, whenever you go through any kind of defeat of that magnitude, I think, testing the heart of the team and what they're playing for at this point is always important. They never quit in that game, so I was impressed with that actual victory.
My guy called that the put out the fire match between Southern and Prairie View. I mean, you had both fan bases calling for coaches' heads, and somebody's hot seat got a little bit cooler after that game.
Truly.
Yeah.
Truly it did.
Yeah. Let's see. Anything else? I don't know if anything. We kind of mentioned Lamar. Texas Southern kind of blows a lead that they had over Lamar. I think they had like a 10-0 lead at half, had a 17-14 or 17-13 lead, ended up blowing it there at the end of late in the fourth quarter. Tough loss. Going over to the MEAC, looking at some of the MEAC scores. Anything out of the MEAC caught your eye? Other than
Dell State. Yeah, but besides the bottom. Delaware State is playing better. They were leading that game for a while. But Richmond's a strong team, but I think Dell State, even when Richmond got ahead, still kept fighting. So definitely impressed with what they were able to, even in a loss, what they did. And I think Lee Hull, despite the criticism of them, in a lot of ways, has them playing really good ball. I think, starting with the Hawaii game and then, moving on to games that they actually won, I think, Dell State's playing a lot better. So impressed with what they're doing so far. Hopefully they can take that next step up.
The other game that I feel like I can poke my chest out about was the Hampton over Howard match. The H belongs to Hampton, and I don't know if Howard will ever get it back, and they might just need to just call themselves the Bison of Washington, D.C. going forward. I mean, just keep it that way. The 8th consecutive year that Hampton has beat Howard. That's Jamie. That's 2 graduating class. Now, look, I'm familiar with long losing streaks to your rival, right? I'm familiar. But 8 consecutive years, and in this century, meaning from 2000 forward, Hampton has won 19 of the 23 games. Unbelievable. 19 of the 23. Damn.
It really is. It just, I mean, it's amazing. But, it just goes to show you, what kind of football programs it has been as far as consistency in the winning. So, Theological College.
Perfect. I think that is the new name that I will officially call them, the Theological College Bison. That is how they should be referred to whenever this game comes up. So that way, I don't have to act like there's an H. And so it is what it is. How about Norfolk State being the only HBCU in, I think there were 8 or maybe 9 games against PWIs. Norfolk State on the road as a 9-point underdog beats VMI 32-10. The only HBCU football team to get a win. So shout out to Norfolk State. Over in the CIAA. Wow. This weekend in the CIAA, Jamie, would have used to be called North versus South week, right? And it has typically been a beating by the North. I mean, just like the Civil War, the North has owned the South. But the South has risen again. because in the year when obviously there is no the divisions, right? There's no technical divisions anymore, but we just have our old history. You have Shaw beating Lincoln 48-14, Fayetteville State 31-7 over ECSU. The two biggest games on the docket, Johnson C. Smith knocking off, I don't even know if it's a knockoff. They just beat Virginia Union at home. I mean, they held, where's the stats I had on that? They held them to something like 10 first downs, 40 net rushing yards, and 180 total yards. I mean, this was the Virginia Union that supposedly, I don't say supposedly. They have had the one of the best offenses in the CIAA in Division II. Might have one of the best running backs. Johnson C. shut that ish down. This like not today. An outstanding defensive performance by Johnson C. Never trailed in the ball game. First time since 1992 that Johnson C. has been 4-0. A little factoid courtesy of Chris Ferguson. Shout out to Chris on that one. And then how about Winston-Salem State? Another team, another North Carolina team from the South. It's like the South not only just ruled the day, but North Carolina over Virginia by, what was the score there? Like 3-0?
Yes. I mean, it's incredible, man.
Big day for the state of North Carolina.
Huge, because I think past the Bowie State run, the Carolina schools really hadn't been as good as they had, could have been. Of course, Fayetteville State's been up there. But at the same time, that run by Bowie State has always been the one that's, because of their playoff wins, it has gotten a notoriety. But I don't know of these many years that the CIAA has had this much parity. Like, just to be honest with you, like Shaw, beat the brakes off Lincoln yesterday, but again, they're playing really good football. Credit to Coach Jones, but he's been there where they played well early and kind of faded late. So it's going to be interesting towards the end of the year, just how they go. So, we'll see.
Well, I think what's interesting we're seeing, while we've been really high about talking about the quarterbacks in the SIC, the CIAA, Christian Peter of Shaw has been really, really, really good. Let me make sure I get his name. The young man from Ocean. Is it Daniel?
Oh, yeah.
Daniel Ocean.
Yeah, from John C. Smith.
John C. Smith has been really good this year. Winston-Salem State, they've been killing people on the ground. That's their thing. They've been punching people in the mouth on the ground. And here's Winston-Salem State, who the previous 2 weeks overtime, they lost to the Aggies. Then they won the following week in overtime, and then they get into a close game and have to finish a game against Virginia State on the road and unfazed. They know how to do it. They've been there. They've dealt with this. So really impressed by, and Shaw, Johnson C. Winston. There was a 5-year period. Well, maybe even longer. They were just bad. Jeez. So I don't know, man. It is interesting kind of seeing how in that year that the old South Guard has kind of risen up. And I think they got another week of those kind of games coming up this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. So it'll be interesting to kind of watch. Let me see if I pull up the matchups. I'm over in I don't know, where's my CIAA? Oh, here it is. Yeah, so for this week, You've got Winston-Salem hosting Bowie. Oh, you get a good one here between Shaw and Virginia Union, and Fayetteville against Virginia State. So there you go.
Yeah, that Shaw game is important. I think, because I still think there are people out there that don't, believe. But I'm telling you, I saw that team up close and personal, and on both sides of the ball, they are very balanced. Even though Christian Peters, listen, I'm from North Carolina, and there was a time Johnson C. Smith was not good at all for a whole lot of years. So I'm listen, Betty's Ford Road. I see you.
Hey, you can conceive. I mean, think about this, and we won't even have hit October. You could theoretically almost have Union and State out of the race. I mean, there might be a stretch to say this, but given the fact that there's no longer divisions and it's overall best record, you could have Virginia Union and Virginia State out of the race before the month of October if both of those teams lose at home to Shaw and Fayetteville State, respectively. That's how big those games are Saturday. You sure could.
I mean, because, and think about it, they still have to play each other.
Yes.
So so they're going to knock one or the other out. Now, I think if I were, actually analyzing those two, I still think Union's a better team than State. But, I'm telling you, I was highly impressed with how Johnson C. Smith really played Virginia Union, because I looked, at least for half of them in Kentucky State and was thinking, okay, Union might be unbeatable, but give credit to Johnson C. Smith and what they're doing and what they're building. Maurice Flowers, kudos to them and that entire staff. They are, turning that program around, and, he's doing what he, is set out to do for his alma mater, man. I mean, it's just, you can't give him enough kudos right now. And they're going out getting players. Johnson C. Smith is that place right now. So, give credit is where credit is due.
We didn't mention this Thursday game, Benedict over Edward Waters, 31-28. The play that should have never happened. I'll just ask you, Jamie, I don't know if you caught any of the conversation with me and Coach regarding this and the formal protest that has been supposedly been filed by Edward Waters. Edward Waters feels that this game shouldn't count towards their conference standings. What's your thoughts?
They have every right to protest. That's the longest 45 seconds I've ever seen. I look at it both ways, and I understand both sides of it. I think it was a technical error. By that, it should have never gotten to that point. Time should have ran out. And with Edward Waters possessing the ball, or either punting with less than maybe 10 seconds remaining in the ball game. But I think the clock completely runs out had it been played right. But at the same time, stuff happens. You got to stop a squad, from getting in the end zone. And, wide receiver went up and made a play. So at the end of the day, I understand both sides of it. It's a tough break if you're Edward Waters, and I think they have every right to put in their protest. So, yeah. Can't hear you, B.
I'm sorry. I said it's been a really tough stretch for Edward Waters, has it not? It's been really tough up to this point.
It has. That loss to Florida Memorial, which is not like it's uncommon. I think 2 years ago they lost to him as well. Yeah. So yeah,
the last 3 years they've lost to Florida Memorial the last 3 years. Yeah.
3 years. So, yeah, it has been tough sledding. I mean, they're a good team. And don't get me wrong. Coach Morgan continues to do a great job with Edward Waters and building that program. They get all the support they need. Hey, Chancellor Faison, or President Faison, made it known he wasn't pleased either on Twitter. So,
no,
they get all the support they need, and phenomenal brain trust when it comes to that program. But yeah, it has been tough the last few weeks.
Well, the good thing for them is they've got a good home stretch upcoming. They've got Tuskegee at home this week. Then they've got the October 5th game against Fort Valley. I'll get a chance to call that game, so that'll be fun. And then they got
I got the link. Yeah, I got the Lane Clark Atlanta game this weekend. When y'all were mentioning it, I was like, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I got that game in Memphis this weekend. So yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Oh, well, you get a chance to see it up close and personal. That'll be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Should be a good game.
Yep.
Yeah. Rest of the scores there from the CIAA. As mentioned, Tuskegee, another loss to Savannah State. Surprising, Savannah State going on the road, 20-16. Miles getting a 42-32 win over Lane. And probably surprising game, Fort Valley dropping a close game to Delta State. If I'm not mistaken, that's a game that I think Fort Valley was either leading or had a chance to win.
Yeah. Yeah, it was unfortunate, man. Delta State being one of the perennial D2 teams. So, that could have been a huge statement.
Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and debut the BCSN top 5 for this week.
There's the virtual drum roll.
I was wondering what that was, but okay. So just to let people know how this is done, how the BCSN computer rankings looks at the season to date, and basically puts into the pot, not only just record, your opponent, strength of schedule, conference wins and losses. The one thing I think that I don't know if it's new, but your margin of victory is capped at 17. So if you beat somebody by 30 versus beating somebody by 20, doesn't make the difference. 17 is sort of the max, right? And I always say this as well. Whatever you see on week 1, it will always level out. So if you see somebody in the top 5 that you're like, how in the hell are they in the top 5? Well, right now the computer loves them. The numbers love them. But guess what? They have to win ball games going forward. So don't overreact too much. All right, let's start with what we call the non-Division I level. Those are teams in Division II and NAIA. Outside of the top 5, we call it in the hunt. The Shaw Bears sitting at 3-1, 1-0 in conference play. In the hunt, just outside of the top 5. And if you see the points there, the points represents their total points in this system. So just outside of the top 5, meaning number 5, by just about 4 greater points, West Virginia State of the Mountain East, a school that we just don't get a chance to talk a lot about, but they are 2-1, won their first conference. a bit much, right?
Just a little bit.
Jesus. West Virginia State, 2-1, 1-0 in conference play. Defeated West Liberty 57-17. All right, number 4, Clark Atlanta. Number 4, 3-0-1, 2-0 in SIAC play. Number 3, Fayetteville State. The Broncos 2-1, 1-0 in conference play out of the CIAA. Might surprise some people to see them there. Maybe.
They quietly just win.
That's what they do. That's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, the Winston-Salem State Rams. Defeated Virginia State 15-14, 3-1 record, 1-0. 642 points. And that means the number 1 team in the non-Division I level to start the season off, the Johnson C. Smith Golden Bulls. 4-0, 1-0 in conference play. So what do we get, Jamie? We get CIAA dominance in the top 3 from Johnson C., Winston-Salem, and Fayetteville. I guess 2 questions for you. A, do you agree with these 3 being the top 3 CIAA teams? And then what's your thoughts on them being the top 3 teams right now to start the season?
I got no problem with it. I think when you're looking at Fayetteville State again, they're just right there, lying within the weeds, just continuing to win and, stay right there in the thick of things. And I think when it comes towards the end of the season, that's when they'll, show themselves to be right up there, possibly getting into the CIAA championship game. And I got no issue with it. You could have flip-flopped them in Winston, only because I think Fayetteville State has been maybe more consistent. But if you're talking about strictly this year in the last few weeks, Winston-Salem State won. So I got no issue with it. And as far as, just rounding out the 5, I think it's good. I think Shaw does have an argument. It'll be interesting. Their game coming up will go to influence a lot going forward. But the fall from grace for Virginia Union is interesting. So I wonder, would they be 6th or 7th? So yeah, I like it. I like the top 5.
Yeah, it is crazy. Just a week ago, I stood on a, sometimes when you have these polls and you're asked to vote, you remember just a week ago, I was standing there telling people about Virginia Union and what I felt about Union and State. In 1 week, I can be convinced. I believe. I think is the tweet I put out after I saw the score. I believe in Johnson C. Smith now. I believe. I believe. I believe. I believe. All right, so there we go. All right, let's get ready to head over to the Division I side of the BCSN Top 5, debuting right here on the Black College Sports Network. The first Top 5 ranking. According to the computer rankings in the hunt, we've got not only Florida A&M, but Alabama A&M and Morgan State, all kind of sitting outside of the top 5, according to the computer rankings. So, what does that mean for our number 5 team? Who are they? Number 5 is Texas Southern. Texas Southern, while being 1-2, does have a conference win over Prairie View. And I think that kind of gave them a little bit of push to this number 5 spot over Florida A&M, who, granted, has not played a conference game yet. So I will not be surprised to see once FAMU beats Alabama A&M, calling it into existence. Once that happens, you'll see probably Florida A&M move up somewhere into the top 5. Just a thought. Number 4, Southern. The Southern Jaguars. 2-2, 1-0 in conference, thanks in large part to that big win on Saturday against Prairie View in overtime. Number 3, the Hampton Pirates. My personal first place team in a couple of polls that I voted in. The Hampton Pirates are 3-1. Haven't played a conference game yet, but that's about to change. As they, of course, beat the Bison 27-20 in the Truth and Service Classic. That was in D.C. And shameful that game couldn't be seen outside of the 150-mile radius of Washington, D.C. Shameful.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube, by the way, just in case anyone wants to look it up. It's out there.
It is.
It is. I may go back and watch it this week. Number 2, North Carolina Central. North Carolina Central, honestly, a Jekyll and Hyde team, in my opinion. I have seen 2 really good performances in the last 4 weeks against Alabama State and then, of course, against A&T Saturday. But I'm still scratching my head trying to figure out how you lost to Elon the way you did. And I guess North Carolina is North Carolina, even though they lost to James Madison, but it is still North Carolina. So. Anyway, North Carolina Central, number 2. And the Grambling State Tigers are the number 1 ranked team in the BCSN top 5 rankings to start the year. Grambling currently on a 3-game winning streak, 3-1, 1-0. They play Prairie View in the State Fair Classic coming up on Saturday. So there is your top 5 to open up the 2024 season. Grambling State 1, North Carolina Central 2, Hampton 3, Southern and Texas Southern rounding out the top 5. What do you think about the top 5, Jamie?
I mean, I think the 4 and 5 and the, I guess, proverbial 6 and, could be, I guess, exchanged. I guess intertwined. There's a case for FAMU being up there. But I like the way it kind of settles. I agree with you about North Carolina Central. They beat us to sleep. I agree. But along with that, it'll be interesting to see what they do in conference. Right up there. I think the MEAC in general, you got a few teams that could jump up there this year. It just really depends on how scoring points will come to a premium. I think the loss against Elon, I don't know if that's really truly that Central team. I just think Elon's that good in the CAA. They built that squad and really have done some things. I know Central beat them last year. So, it'll be interesting to see how Central actually shakes out. South Carolina State's another one that could possibly have something to say as well. But, yeah, I think it's cool. But I think, Florida A&M, in that 4 or 5 slot probably could have been there.
Yeah, and again, I think, again, part of it, when you see the value that's placed on conference wins, the fact that you get an early conference game for Southern versus a Florida A&M helps. So again, I tell you, in 1 to 2 weeks, I won't be shocked to see Southern or Texas Southern potentially fall out, and then see a Florida A&M in there, and maybe even a Morgan State, just because strength of schedule. But that's going to be what's going to be hard and interesting for MEAC schools. Now, coming into this upcoming week, Jamie, as we start looking ahead to the weekend, we got a couple of interesting classics. Got the State Fair Classic, Prairie View versus Grambling, taking place in Dallas in the Cotton Bowl. We touched on this. You have the new renovated Rice-Totten Stadium in Mississippi Valley. The Kelvin Carter, who was on in the first segment, was talking about the 40-year anniversary of the game of the century between Valley and Alcorn, that Alcorn won 42-28. So it'll be kind of interesting to see what kind of attention that gets if we see other outlets kind of talk about that. over the course of this week leading up to that game. Of course, you know, Valley's 0-4, Alcorn's 1-3. Not nearly the offensive juggernauts that those teams were back in the day, but, you know, and none of these kids were, hell, their grandparents watched this game back then. You know, their parents maybe watched this game, maybe, but you know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. Over in the MEAC, we've got the 40th anniversary of the Circle City Classic in Indianapolis, an actual conference game between North Carolina Central and Norfolk State that they moved. A big showdown between the CAA and the MEAC, between your Aggies and South Carolina State. South Carolina State was on a bye last week. Howard versus Princeton. That'll be an interesting ball game. You know, and I think we're just, and Delaware State and Campbell. I mean, we're just looking at, can the MEAC get wins in the non-conference versus some of these PWIs? That's of interest for me. What about you? And I didn't mention any of the SIC games. You just mentioned you're covering Clark and Lane. We've also got Benedict, Morehouse, Miles, Allen, Fort Valley at Savannah State, Kentucky State at Albany State. Nothing ever goes to chalk, but that's sort of the schedule as it lays out. What's your thought on just the upcoming weekend?
Yeah, that Fort Valley Savannah State game is interesting because Savannah State pulls the upset at Tuskegee. So you know they're riding high, and you know Coach Kelvin has got some confidence. So I'll be curious to see how that goes. Fort Valley, after losing to Clark in the beginning of the year, I'm curious to see if they can make that run to get to the SIAC championship. I'm sure Albany State will have something to say towards the end of the year. But yeah, I'll be have my ears perked up to hear that one as well. So we'll see how it is. And the Lane Clark game, with Lane dropping that game this weekend, it'll be interesting to see if they can bounce back against a Clark squad that's riding high. So those two games are intriguing me.
Well, you can catch Jamie on the call for that game, 2:00 Eastern on ESPN Plus. So I will be tuned in because the best quarterback in HBCU football will be playing, and he is always worth watching. So that'll be good. And you did mention the Fort Valley Savannah State. That too will also be on ESPN Plus. So yeah. Well, that's gonna do for tonight. Loaded show as always. Appreciate everyone watching. Appreciate everybody in the comments. If you're watching us via maybe later on YouTube, we thank you. Hit the thumbs up and the like button if you would, whenever you watch, or even if you're watching now, hit the thumbs up and the like button. You might even be watching or listening on the BCSN Pod Zone. So we say hello to you and thank you for watching. Please make sure you subscribe. However you're watching us, whether it be Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple or Google Podcasts, Amazon Music even. We thank you for listening and downloading. Rate, review, subscribe to the podcast channel where you can catch all of the shows that are featured on the Black College Sports Network all in one place. That's BCSN Pod Zone. All right. Well, Jamie, any final words as we close out for you?
No, man, just keep watching HBCU football as always, man. There are plenty of avenues to be able to watch it. Got to thank AD Drew, man. He is the virtual TV guide. So just watch out. For those of y'all that remember the TV guide, you can find out wherever a game is on through him. So just look, Black College Sports Network. Continue looking for coverage and just catch a game.
Yeah, exactly. He usually drops that on Fridays. And if it's not retweeted out Friday evening, you can definitely see it Saturday morning. So it's a great, just make sure you're tuned in at MyBCSN1. We usually try to pin it to the profile and then also post it on the Facebook pages and stuff. So that way you can find any and all these games. We have an unprecedented year of coverage for HBCU football games. So any and all divisions are accessible. Well, most games are accessible via some streaming platform or on digital TV or whatever. So make sure you check that out. All right. For Jamie Walker, for Kelvin Carter, for Coach Farasi Norman, I'm Bryan Fulford. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for consuming the content. Have a great week. And let's get ready for a new week of football. And hopefully our teams live up to the expectations that we seem to all have for them on a weekly basis. Peace out, everybody.